have Bill West with me, the Mayor of Cowra. Now, Bill, you just got through a mayoral election last week, and that's the first time you've had somebody else stand against you. And do you interesting some of the comments that have flowed from that?
I think, Gary, the first thing is I tend to go back to my sporting days, and in a cricket team, for example, that every year or sometimes during the year you have a vote for captain. People are entitled to put their hand up. That's a democratic process. I welcome the rigours of the democratic process. There's no issue from my perspective at all with that. I'm very quick to point out that as far as I'm concerned, there's no I in team. So the council, like your sporting teams, are a team. We need to work together, and I think that this council has and will continue to work very, very well together, and everybody pretty independent. And no one person makes all the decisions. It's a majority decision. So where we and as you would know from your experiences, and it happens to all of us, where we finish up being what we think on the wrong end of the vote, but it does at the end of the day it's a decision of the council, a decision of the majority that actually we need to actually respect and adhere to. One of the roles of the mayor, of course, is to publicly put that position of council out into the general community, irrespective of what you may or may not think. So it really is a matter of working as a team, and it's a matter of every councillor working for that particular team and that goal. And once a decision is made, you should probably move on. And if you've got problems with the decision, well, then you look at various options within the council system to change those sorts of decisions. There are avenues, as you're aware, that you can use. So if anybody's not happy with what council has decided, then those avenues are the ones I think should be pursued.
Now, Bill, there's been a few comments made publicly about some of the decisions of council. Would you like the opportunity to answer them? How about we start with the Shield decision to start with?
The Shield matter, I think Gary's been pretty well covered over a long period of time, but I'd be reluctant to say too much about that. I think that we need to move on. Those comments the comments of councillors are something I'm not prepared to go down the path of. The decision of the council was made public, but the conversations we had in closed council, which is the appropriate place to deal with these matters, anything attributed to councillors ought to remain within closed council, and I fully respect that right of councillors to have the ability to say what they want to say without fear of it getting out into the public arena, because even I might agree with the decision, it can inadvertently place pressure on other councillors who could feel they're being identified or isolated because they didn't agree with something.
We do have an issue too, or there's an issue mentioned about the adoption of the LEP and its long-term viability.
The LEP was something which I think you're aware of. Went back a long time, and a lot of hard work was done on the LEP. Remember, the LEP is a planning instrument. It's an instrument whilst it's called the Local Environmental Plan. It has to be signed off on by the Minister. And the Minister will only sign off on it when there's some form of concurrence from both the Department of Planning and Department of Primary Industry. So it's not something that Council necessarily has a free rein on, although you have a lot of input into it. It's a broad document which covers a considerable amount of the planning and the land use capabilities across the Shire, including your residential, light industrial and the like. So to have just a couple of areas that are causing concern, that's an issue that can be discussed at council if it's raised in the appropriate and proper way, and I'm sure those conversations can or will be had in the future. But it was a good decision made for the right reasons at the right time. And
the opportunity to change it will come up in the future, you think?
I think, well,
if necessary.
LEPs get reviewed, and if the majority of councillors feel there is a reason to review something, then the majority of councillors have that right to investigate that or look at it. It's not a matter of what I might think or what any individual councillor might think. It's up to the majority of councillors, and if the majority of councillors are happy with where it is at the moment, well, that's where it stands. But I don't think anybody's got a closed mind, and I'm sure that council is always receptive to look at opinions, but I reiterate, a lot of hard work went into it, a lot of deep, serious consideration went into it, and it's about the well-being of our shire and our region, and not just about one or two issues, but about a whole raft of issues.
In relation to the LEP, industrial land was also brought up as an issue. Would you like to comment on that?
The industrial land was appropriately identified. We had landowners who made submissions, made requests, made suggestions. I think council has always acknowledged for quite some time that there is a need for a variety of land types, land use types. Industrial land, of course, was one, and council resolved to that Pridham Street area north towards the Mirth, appropriately zoned for industrial land. It's privately owned. Council is quite happy and has indicated quite openly, quite happy to work with any developer who's looking to develop that land appropriately. There are services that council would help to provide, obviously for some sort of cost recoupment. But until there is something a little more positive, apart from saying yes, we'll work with someone who wants to develop it, the general opinion has been that there is little point in putting services in there at considerable expense. Firstly, there's no one look like moving in there, but secondly, until you identify what sort of services might be required.
So you need a concrete proposal and then the services to match that proposal?
Well, I guess, for example, there would be little point in putting in. We've seen other areas within our light industrial area where water mains were put in, for example, that were too small for the required capacity down the track. So it makes good sense that your planning for infrastructure goes hand in hand with the planning for a development.
Now, Bill, the Yarrabilly development has also been mentioned as some sort of a concern. What's the situation with that?
Well, Yarrabilly, Gary, goes back some considerable years. I'm not exactly how many, I can't quite put my finger on. Maybe I think you might have even been on council at that particular time when we identified that Yarrabilly area as a possibility for sale. Went through a rigorous process with expression of interest for sale. Went through a very good process. Sold the land subject to conditions. One of those conditions, of course, was a successful rezoning. Now, it took a long time because of the LEP and the difficulties we had getting the LEP up and running. The developer had to wait. And of course, as a result of that, the developers reasonably come back and ask council for a little bit more time to actually finalise the sale, which council in public, it's a public document that the council has basically concurred to do that. The rest, the ins and outs of who said what to who, was again like some of those other issues that's behind closed doors, and I just really am extremely reluctant to even indicate who might have said what, because I think that's not fair to anybody, irrespective of what side they might be on in the debate.
And of course, you've just entered your 8th year as mayor, and the elections will be this time next year, September sometime. Are you going to stand again?
Well, firstly, yeah, it's my 8th year, and that's probably 8 years longer than I thought I'd ever contemplate when I first got on council, and you're probably aware of that one. And it's always been a privilege to be the mayor, I must say that, and it's something I regard as an honour, and I'm very appreciative of it. As far as next year's local government elections, at this stage I'm putting my hat up for the council. Of course, then the council who's elected will be the ones who determine who the mayor is. But yeah, I'm going to put my hat in the ring at this stage, but certainly going to put my hand up for council. I think the only comment I'd make is that I really hope that we can create an environment where teamwork is the priority, and where we can encourage people to stand without fear of being criticised around the trap, so to speak, so we can actually get good candidates. And we've had good candidates in the past, don't get me wrong, but there are people out there who sort of say, well, you know, there's too much work, the business wouldn't stand it if I put up for council. Like families to consider. There's all sorts of reasons why people are unable to stand for council, and I would really like to make sure, as best possibly we can, that men, women of all ages and all backgrounds are quite able to stand for council and contribute to our community in what I hope is a harmonious atmosphere.